Hi and welcome back. So in this lecture, you're gonna learn how to create a lead generation ad. So let's start from the very beginning. First things first, what is a lead? Well, a lead is data, right? So lead generation means to generate other people's data, other people's information. So for example, sometimes we want to generate leads because we're going to want to turn them into a customer, into a client, right? But sometimes we have a longer sales process. So we want to have their phone number or we want to have their email, etc. to get to know them first and then start working on our upsell. Lead generation is one of the key cornerstones in pretty much any business, and in this lecture, you're gonna learn how to create those effective lead generation ads. Let's dive in. Now, while lead generation ads are pretty easy to create, they are tricky in another way, and that is that you are handling other people's information, and that is quite a sensitive thing, especially since the GDPR law come into regulation. That is the General Data Protection Regulation, meaning that in Europe, the European citizen own their own data. So you're not able to collect data about someone in Europe without their consent. Of course, if you're doing a lead generation ad, that brings up some obstacles, right? So we're gonna make sure that we create a lead generation ad that is completely legal and completely functional, all right? Very important and also very easy to miss. So let's get started. First things first, we're gonna go ahead and click on create here, as always. And then from here, the only thing that's going to be different at this part is that we're going to change our campaign objective from traffic and go down and change it to lead generation, right? That's going to be the only thing. Then we're going to create a new ad set, and then we're going to create a new ad, and there are going to be some differences. Now, there's one thing I want you to notice, and that is that it says, please read and accept Facebook lead ads terms before creating your ad for this page. So we're going to go ahead and click here. Now, I want you to read this through before you agree to the terms and conditions, but basically what it says is that they are not responsible for how you collect other people's leads and how you collect other people's information and how you use other people's information. Remember, if you do not have another person's consent and they're European and you collect their information, you're doing something illegal. And there are some pretty hefty sums. I think last I checked, there was like, you can get a penalty that's going to be 1% of the business annual income. That is a pretty big penalty. I don't know if they might even have increased it today, but needless to say, you don't want to get into that trench of problems, right? So this is basically Facebook giving away their own responsibility and saying, hey, you're on your own. It's your responsibility that you make sure that you collect the data and you handle the data in a proper way, right? According to laws and regulations. So read through this, and then once you're done, click on I agree to terms and conditions, and there we go, right? Now we have accepted. So now I'm not gonna write anything in here because I just wanna show you how this works. And then we're gonna click on save to draft. So on the campaign level, there's nothing special to do. We've already selected lead generation, right? Then we can go to ad set. Now there's nothing that we need to set up here either, but later on when we have added in a product catalog to our account, which I'm gonna show you how to do in a couple of lectures, then you will be able to add in your product catalog here. Basically what that means is that you'll be able to showcase the products that you have on your website, your e-commerce for example, and then have people sign up while they're looking at those products. So let's say that you're selling cars, for example, some really expensive or high ticket sales. Well, that means that if you want to get leads for those different cars, well, then you can make them into a carousel, but then you need the product catalog as well. So that's going to be a way to do that, but we're going to talk more about that later on. Now we're going to move on to the design itself of the ad. This is where most of the magic happens, right? Starting off, there's nothing special. We have the ad name, the identity, and the format. Now notice they've already selected a picture for us. We can of course select a new one ourselves. We can clear it. We can select someone else. We can even add a stock photo. Just understand that this is going to be displayed on the ad form itself. Now we're not going to bother about that right now. We are going to scroll down, and all this is the same. We're going to scroll down until we see something that says create lead form, right? This is where we get into the uniqueness of this type of ad. This is how we create lead generation ads. So we're going to click on create lead form, and there is going to be a couple of things that we want to set up here, and we're going to go through those together step by step. Now, first things first, that's the form name, and the form name is just going to be for us to recognize it, all right? So this isn't going to be anything official. So I am going to go ahead and I'm going to call this free case study. So as always, we are going to be asking people to give their information to us, right? Now, they need a reason to give us that information. So if you're selling a car and you want to have their phone number as a lead to call on that car, well, that's already a reason in itself. But let's say, for example, that you're looking to add them to your email list, well, then they are going to want something in return, and that is known as a lead magnet, right? A magnet to generate that lead. Now, the lead magnet that we're going to use in this case is going to be a free case study. So let's pretend, for example, here that we're trying to gather leads towards a high ticket sale Facebook ads course. So what we want them to do then is that we want to give them something that is going to be for free for them in exchange for their email. And that's going to be a case study. And that's going to be something like how we increased our revenue by 23% in just 7 days using Facebook ad strategies. Something like that they, the targeted audience, are going to be interested in. So let's continue. The first thing we have here, we're going to go through this last. The first thing we have here under form type is going to be if we want to aim at people and get more volume or a higher intent, right? The only difference between those two is going to be that the higher intent is going to have a review screen. So if you're looking to get many leads, then go with more volume. If you're looking to have very specific leads, right, people who are very much engaged, you're going to want to go with higher intent. Generally, I don't think that this review screen adds in that much, so I generally go with more volume. But if you're doing some really high ticket sale, then it's not a bad idea whatsoever to use the higher intent. All right, so we're going to collapse form type, and then we're going to go into intro. So here we can see to the right how it's looking right now. We're currently creating our lead form. Now you notice that this is the picture that was already selected for us, and we could go ahead and we could select another one. Now here it's saying the background image. Do we want to use the image from our ad, or do we want to upload an image ourselves? Now I recommend that you use the image from your ad, and the reason for that is that when you do your split test and you use different images, that is going to make your life much simpler. You can just do split test like we've gone through before, change the image, and then look at the results. But if you're going to upload specific images, you're going to have to go in here and then change the lead form every time, and that's just a lot of hassle. So most of the time, I strongly recommend using the image from your ad. All right, then going down, we have the greeting. And the greeting is going to be, let people know why they should complete your form and any relevant details. Basically, why should they sign up? This is your make it or break it moment. So we are going to call this free Facebook ads case study, right? Now we're going to try to make this as attractive as possible for them. And we're going to write something like free Facebook ads strategy. Something like that. So we're using the word free quite liberally here because we really want them to sign up. And then we're going to add in something. So let's say that we had a case study that said how we increased our revenue by 23% in just 7 days using these Facebook ads strategies. And then we're gonna write something like a step-by-step tutorial and templates included, right? Something like that, trying to really make it attractive. Now, something that I really like to do as well is using emojis because it really makes it stick out. So for a Mac, and I think a lot of PCs, I just need to right click here and click on emoji and symbols because you can see there's none in there. And then I'm gonna use something like this symbol. I think generally that one looks pretty good. I'm gonna go ahead and copy that one. I'm gonna create this into a paragraph again. And then I'm gonna put these. See, now it sticks out a little bit more. It draws more attention. So I think generally this is a pretty good idea. So there we go. So this is going to be the greeting, basically the reason why they should be signing up. Here we're writing in our lead magnet, all right? Now, if we were really clever with this, we would also have a picture that reflected this increase in sale, or that had a number, is it 27% increase, or a chart, for example, just showing an up arrow, you know, something to really draw their attention, right? So once we're done with this, we're just gonna scroll up, and then the intro part is done. Then we're gonna move on to questions. Now, this is an interesting part because we have a couple of different options here. We can ask responses to questions, for example, adding in multiple choice questions, short answers, conditional questions, appointment request, etc. Scrolling down, we get basically a description of how we're going to use their information, and then the type of information that we're going to require from them. Now, if this isn't enough, we can click on Add Category, and as you can see, there's a lot of information that we can gather about people. A fair bit of warning here. The more information that you ask from people, the lower the conversion rates are going to be. So I strongly recommend that in most of the cases, you focus on email, their name, and depending on what it is, maybe their phone number. But don't go into more than that. Don't go crazy, because people aren't going to be signing up and you don't really need that information for much. So stick with what works, all right? All right, so let's start over from the very top here. We do not need to add custom questions. We're gonna avoid filling this up too much. The description is actually important because we need to show them why we want their information and what we're going to use them for. So for example, if you're collecting leads to that car, for example, we're going to use your contact information to contact you within a week or whatever it might be. So for this example, remember, we're collecting leads for a high ticket sale here, and we're using the lead magnet to try to get that lead. We might write something like, we'll use your email to send you weekly newsletters. And just to be transparent with what you're going to use their information about. You need to be transparent. It's super important. So if you're trying to build an email list and you're going to be sending weekly newsletter, you need to be transparent about that. That is one of those things that people aren't transparent about that. And if Facebook took responsibility for that, Facebook wouldn't exist today, right? They'd have too many penalties. So we're not going to play around with these. These are going to be perfect the way they are. Scrolling down, we're not going to add another category. We're going to keep this as simple as we can. Once it's done, we're going to collapse questions. And now privacy. Oh, this is so important, right? So privacy, so because we're collecting their information, we need to make sure that they are in full agreement and understanding with how we are going to be using all of their information. So that means that if you're a company, which the chances are you are, that because you're collecting leads here, right? Well, that means that you are going to want to link your privacy policy here. Basically, how you're going to use their information, how private their information is, who you're going to share it with, and all that stuff. So for most websites, if you're in here and you created your website or you had someone else do it, by scrolling to the very bottom, we're going to have a privacy policy. Now, you need to have a privacy policy on your website. There's no exceptions to that, right? If you have a website, you're going to have a privacy policy. So you need to right click there and then copy link address, okay? We're going to do that, and then we're going to go back and we're going to paste it in here. This is so important. And then we're going to go to link up here and we're going to paste it in just like that, okay? So now it says here, view Facebook data policy, and then it says view R&J deals privacy policy. But if we want it to be a little bit smaller, we can just write privacy policy here. There, so now it doesn't say R&J's deals privacy policy, it just says privacy policy. And clicking here is going to take them to this page, right? That we just added. So there's no way around this, right? We need to have this clear before we collect their information. Scrolling down, there's another thing, and a lot of people miss out on this, but you can't miss out on this. If you get anyone from Europe signing up, you collect their information, you need to have their consent. And by law, the only way for anyone to give their consent is if they take an action that shows that they're giving their consent. Just clicking on submit isn't enough. They need to check something out to understand that they understand what they're signing up to before they're actually submitting. So what we need to do is click on the add custom disclaimer here. All right, and then it says the title first of all, and then the text. So we're gonna title this like email usage and terms. There we go, because that's what it's about, how we're going to use their email and the terms that they have to agree to. And then we're going to write in a text, and we're going to write something like, we will only send you useful content. You can unsubscribe at any time. Actually, let's do it like this. We promise to, and then there we go. We promise to only send you useful content. Okay, but that is not the law part. Here is where you actually become legal with your lead generation, at least in Europe, but I think this is spreading as we speak. You click here on add new consent, right? And then it says consent required. Notice you just selected a checkbox here. And then you're gonna write, I agree to sign up to the email list. All right, there we go. Because if they agree to sign up to the email list, well, then they understand what you're going to use their email for, and then you can go ahead and do that. You can also write, for example, I agree to the usage terms and privacy policy, right? As long as you get their consent on this, you are going to be green. And do not click this optional. If you click this optional, you make it useless, right? You need to make sure that this is mandatory. So as they cannot submit before they actually click this one in. And now when they have to click this one in, your lead generation form is officially legal. So great job in doing this. And it's so easy to miss out because notice that you have to click on add a new consent. You have to do this as something that looks optional when it comes to the Facebook ads lead generation. But it's not optional. It's absolutely mandatory if you want to be following the laws and regulations. All right? So fantastic. Now we're completely legal and we want to keep it that way. We're going to collapse this one, and then finally we have completion. And it's going to say, thanks, you're all set. So you can write in whatever you want there yourself. And you can visit our website or exit the form now. You can now download your case study. Something like that. Now, here's another cool thing. In the past, you could only select a couple of call to action buttons. For example, download or call to business or view site. But now you can actually add in a custom text. So simply by writing here, download case study. So now the button actually says download case study here. Now, I don't know if my head might be a little bit in the way. Sorry about that. We're going to look in the preview in just a second. And then we want to, of course, to have a link where they can actually download it. So for example, rnjdeals.com/case-study. Something like that, right? Let's pretend that we had a case study downloadable and ready right there. So that's where they would end up. And then when we're done, we're just gonna go ahead and click on publish. So now our form has been added, and there's another great thing about that, right? And that is that now when we have this form, we can use this form in the future as well. It's been saved down as a template. So that means that, well, now you can use it wherever you want. You can use it as a template to make new duplications of. So it's very easy to do, and it's very effective as well. Now, if I remove the preview here, we're not going to see any of those other preview. We get to see directly how the form is going to look like. And this is the way it looks like, right? I hope you can see my head isn't in the way there. And then I'm just going to click on the button here. It's done arrow. I think my head is in the way. And we're going to see what the next is, the contact information, and then we have the email usage and terms, and then finally the thank you, and then there's going to be a download link there. Oh, there it is, download case study. So this is how you create a lead generation form. Very quick, very effective, not that complicated at all. Just remember, you need to be legal. So you need to make that consent form and have them click it. Do not make it optional. Once you've done that, you're pretty much set to go. And then the final thing I want to show you is that once you start generating leads, then under results here, you are going to get a clickable link. Unfortunately, since in our business, we do not generate leads based on what we do, we don't have any leads generated. This is just a dummy campaign that we've created. But you're going to have a blue link here. You can click on it. You can download all of your leads. You can either save them, use them yourself, or you can connect them to a CRM. If you don't know what a CRM, you probably don't need it. Don't worry about it. But those leads are yours for the taking. You created the ad, you got the lead, and you did so legally. So fantastic job. See you in the next lecture.